Hello, hello. My question to you is today, what is your superpower? And what if that superpower is something you've already lived, something you've already experienced? As I was thinking about what to talk about today, something that came up to me was a cousin of mine a few years ago did a TEDx talk. And once I say that, I know who, she's going to know, you're talking about me. Yes, I am. Anyway, she talked about her superpower being aging. Aging was her superpower. So that really has led me to what I'm going to talk about today. And also some other things that I've seen that other women have written me. I take inspiration from lots of places that help me um, add to just the things that I want to talk with you about that really I think are very meaningful in this whole chapter of redefining aging and really reconnecting, making that reconnection with who we are, the essence of who we are, and who we are evolving to be even more of, because we're already enough. Well, I thought about my life and some of the things that have impacted me actually going into health and wellness, which I've been in for a number of years. And what's impacted, and some of you may know my story, is my mother and my mother transitioning at a relatively young age before she was 50, and me just having turned 20 when that happened. And it wasn't like she was sick or anything, but it became an eye opener for me that got bigger and bigger as I aged, as I went through life. And again, that's been my impetus for being in this field. And a few years ago, I was made aware that I had some metabolic imbalances in my life. And what that's all about is basically how our body processes food and turns it into energy. Okay. So I recognized that I had some imbalances through a number of questions and tests, etc. And so began to ask myself some questions because that awareness I felt gave me the invitation to really pay attention, to really pay attention to what my body was telling me and to make some decisions. So that awareness in itself was a gift. It was a gift that was opening the door to an experience that was going to make me a better, healthier person. So I started to ask myself questions. What's not working? And I chose not to ignore it because, again, my impetus after my mother's early transition was to live a life as healthy as possible, knowing that I don't control what happens, but to live a life as healthy as I can with what I can control. And that is, again, why I'm here doing what I do. So the awareness that I had about my metabolic imbalance again made me pay attention in a way that I really hadn't. You know, like many of us, we do things and we do them because, well, that's just the way we've always done them. That's just the way my culture is. That's how we eat. That's how we move, etc., etc. But it can come to a point that you recognize that That may be true, but two truths can exist at the same time. If you continue in that way, then you may not get the results that you say you want and truly desire. And so those are things that I'm mindful of asking on a regular basis. And that's what I do. I ask myself, what is it that I can do now? What are some changes that I can make that will plant the seeds for the type of life that I want to be able to experience in my coming years? And what I end up with is some ideas that I kind of ruminate over, and I choose one small thing to do to start with to change. And I do something that I can do on a daily basis. So for me, my metabolic imbalances had to do with a lot of what I was eating. You know, I used to say I have a sweet tooth. Yeah, I do, but I don't have to give into it. And not giving into it on a regular basis practice. Takes practice on a daily basis that becomes then a habit. And this is true no matter what the issue is. It can be health, it can be relationships, it can be, your work situations, your business, your finances. It can be any of those things, but it all starts with making a decision that leads you to prioritize what's most important, what is it that you can do, and constantly touching back and letting your body talk to you and asking yourself, is the direction that I'm going, the things that I'm doing now, are they improving? Where is the evidence of the improvement? And can I continue it? Can I sustain it? Because I know that in my situation of my metabolic imbalance, I didn't want any quick fixes, because I know that that's something I can't sustain. Quick fixes, and then loads and loads of quick fixes in our environment, in social media, etc. I knew I didn't want that, and that's not usually what I recommend to anyone else. But I was looking at, how can I help myself? How can I influence the people that I love? And how can I influence others on this path that I am of really spreading well being, redefining aging through allowing women, empowering women, I should say, to define what does that look like for them and go moving forward. Our next chapter, ladies, seasoned sisters, as I've said before, is not about becoming someone new, but it is truly about the evolving of who you are at your essence, which is made up of the experiences that you've already had in life. That is your superpower. The experiences that you've had, that you've learned from rather, and the evidence that you have of them working in your life. Can you sustain them? I know that you can. So I leave you with the question, what is the biggest, the greatest teacher that you've had in your life now, up to now. That's your superpower. As usual, I say adios until we meet again.